Good evening, everybody. I'm Lee Nelson.
And I'm Lindsay Mills. Hunger is a problem in our state. 1 in 5 children doesn't know where their next meal is coming from. That's according to the Good Shepherd Food Bank, which has a program that works to combat that.
Mainers Feed Mainers supplies fresh, healthy, locally grown fruit and vegetables to families in need. But funding for the program runs out next week.
And not only could that impact the Mainers who depend on that produce, but the farmers who supply it too.
Our livelihood is to provide for people.
At Joel Gilbert's family farm in Livermore Falls, the apples that grow on these trees go a long way.
When somebody who's in need can get a piece of fruit from this farm, it definitely makes me feel like what we've set out to do has been accomplished.
To date, Good Shepherd Food Bank has purchased 200,000 apples and packs of applesauce from his farm.
It's pretty cool to see.
It's part of the Mainers Feeding Mainers program. For the last 3 years, it's been funded by a $3 million grant. That funding, though, is expected to run dry next week.
Joel Gilbert is among the 70 farmers who supply food, fresh produce, 2 million pounds of it just last year alone, to the Good Shepherd Food Bank. We're taking a look inside the food bank's distribution center in Auburn to see what this impact means for them.
We are preparing for the worst.
Kristen Maley is the president of Good Shepherd Food Bank. She and others are hopeful proposed legislation to restore funding, LD 786, gets through the legislature.
Our timing doesn't always sync up. We had to approve our budget with our board last week. We approved a worst case scenario budget, which showed us having to cut our budget for produce purchasing, and also for the first time in over 10 years showing a decline in the amount of food that Good Shepherd will be able to distribute next year, including a decline in produce.
She says what's at stake is twofold. Farmers will lose out on business, and Mainers will lose access to fresh fruits and vegetables.
Probably around 2.5 million meals lost.
Millions of meals.
And it's the best quality food that's going to be lost.
Right now, the proposed bill is before the Appropriations Committee, and according to testimony, the state is neither for nor against it.
And a spokesperson for the governor's office sent us the following statement. In 2017, the legislature dedicated one-time funding for the Mainers Feeding Mainers program. If the legislature decides to dedicate additional funding for the program through that bill, LD 786, which is pending before the Appropriations Committee, the administration would be happy to continue implementing it and its associated services. But there is hope in separate legislation. Maine is set to draw up a plan to eliminate hunger, food insecurity, and malnutrition in the state by 2030.
That's right. Governor Janet Mills recently signed this bill into law. It will take effect 90 days after the end of the legislative session, which is slated for mid-June. The legislation calls on the state's Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry to work with statewide advocacy groups and farmers and commercial fishermen and women, state agencies, and others to come up with this plan by February the 10th. The bill's fiscal note says it expects the Agriculture Department to absorb minor costs under the law.
This was a very popular story on social media today. Chada says it's beyond time for this. In 2019, people are working 2 to 3 jobs and are still struggling. No one should be hungry. Sue adds 2030? Really? So in the meantime, what shall families do? Working families working 2 jobs to put food on the table, people like me that can't get the health care or food stamps because we fall between the cracks.
All right. So we'll be following this
Absolutely.
for a while.
Stay tuned to our website.
Yes, indeed. And we're following the weather every day, all the time. Not maybe as closely as Keith is, but we follow it, Keith.
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe I wasn't paying attention this weekend. There's a real possibility. Great weekend, right?
Yes.
Overall, very solid, and then we roll into this.
Yeah.
So it's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, and we've got some heavy rain out there in spots. And earlier, it was actually so cold in the mountains of New Hampshire that we were getting some snow that was melting and confusing the radar into thinking it was heavier precipitation. This is all rain, but it is cold rain and some heavier stuff moving towards Belfast, Skowhegan, and Waterville at the moment. Look at these temperatures, 40s in a lot of spots. And it really just didn't get much nicer than this today. Over northern Maine, though, a totally different day. We saw sunshine there, Frenchville, Clayton Lake, 65, 60, 62 in Presque Isle. Sunny up there. So this reminds me a lot of the pattern that we were in a couple of weeks ago, in which far northern Maine saw much nicer weather than central and southern Maine. So the rain continues tonight over the southern 2/3 or so of the state into early tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow is not a very wet day, but it's not a particularly nice day either. It's cloudy pretty much through and through. It's a little bit raw. Temperatures only in the 50s for highs. Guys, like I said, I think unfortunately a bit of a throwback to that pattern we were stuck in a few weeks ago.
All right, well, let's get it out of our system right now.
Move
and
on.
then we can permanently move on. All right, Keith, we'll talk to you again in a bit. Thanks a lot. Let's look at some headlines. The Supreme Court upholds an Indiana law requiring that abortion providers bury or cremate fetal remains. The justices ruled 7-2 that Indiana can mandate that fetal remains be treated as human remains, but the High Court stayed out of the broader abortion debate, deciding not to hear Indiana's appeal of a lower court ruling blocking a broader measure which would prevent a woman from aborting a pregnancy based on gender, race, or disability.
The National Weather Service confirming it was indeed a tornado that touched down in a central Indiana town where dozens of homes were damaged. It happened right near Indianapolis in Pendleton. The storm's intensity and the length of its path haven't been determined, but the storm did damage at least 75 homes. We're going to have much more about the type of tornado that swept through Indiana coming up in Brain Drops at the end of this half hour.
Malaysia is planning to send back trash to the United States and other countries. Malaysian authorities say they are returning 3,300 tons of non-recyclable plastic waste to the U.S., the U.K., Canada, and Australia. They say they don't want to be a dumping ground for rich nations. Now, the country's environmental minister says Malaysia and other developing countries have become new targets after China banned the import of plastic waste last year. She said 60 containers stacked with contaminated plastic waste were smuggled in en route to an illegal processing facility in Malaysia.
How stressed out are you at work? A question we probably ask ourselves, maybe more than we want to. If the answer is really stressed out, then you might want to talk to your doctor. Here's why. Many people call this burnout. The World Health Organization now says while it's not a medical condition, you should still talk to your doctor about it. Experts say it's a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. The symptoms include exhaustion, feeling cynicism about your job, and reduced professional effectiveness. Now, experts say you can protect yourself from burnout by recognizing the symptoms and taking some time off from work. And if that doesn't work, maybe consider a job change. I did read somewhere today, too, that the World Health Organization might recognize this as an actual disease or an illness several years from now.
Interesting. All right. They kind of set the stage for maybe doing that down the line.
But until then, you just got to kind of take it upon yourself.
I think it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, it turns out some flavors of e-cigarettes are worse for your heart than others. We'll explain that.
And we are getting ready for high school graduation season. Sam York's going to tell us about a kind of a complicated situation where one school system is not allowing a student in good standing the opportunity to march with his class. Let me...
Interesting, because you think all e-cigarettes are not the best for you, but if one flavor is worse than the other...
It has to do with the liquids. Uh-oh, what just happened?
No.
There we go.
A lot of you guys say you're enjoying the rain.
That's nice.
Some of you saying that you've been praying for the states that have had too much rain. Thinking of others.
We didn't have any for 15 days in Jacksonville, Florida.
Wow. You know, the rain definitely makes me feel sleepy.
Yeah. I like a rainy day, but not 17,000 in a row.
In a row. I know. I know. It's too bad we can't disperse it to the places that need it.
Right.
So yeah.
Maybe Liam could do that.
I'm always impressed. I wish you guys could see Liam right now. He's working on he's got like 6 monitors going right now with things. Then he's also on his laptop standing doing things like posting to our website.
Right.
It's amazing.
Standing on one leg, which makes it even more interesting.
It's very impressive.
And he's doing it in 3 different languages, which is incredible too.
So Keith,
whereas Carson over there is not doing a darn thing.
No, he's just making his mark in the new weather center. Are you guys allowed to use the new weather center? Yeah. It's up and running? It looks awesome.
It looks nice over there.
I like how you assume everything I do is not sanctioned.
Well, I was worried. I was worried for you last week. Yeah. You are a rule breaker.
What was that? What did I do last week?
You sat in the weather center for a bump.
Oh yeah. It was okay because we had the Jamaican air horn. I think that's how it works. As long as you use that. Liam, true or false? You already had that app.
Oh no, it's still on there.
Did you have it previously?
No, but I did delete it. How did I hear about it though? I feel like I heard about it from you.
I was telling Brian, he's like,
What, the air horn thing?
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh wait, something did come of the air horn?
No, that's fine.
Oh.
It's a great thing to have. I told Liam he should keep it.
Oh,
in
for
case
sure.
it comes
It's
up.
good.
You know.
There's an air horn out.
In health news, another strike.
The liquids used to flavor e-cigs may be bad for your heart. Researchers at Stanford studied the effects of e-liquids, as they're called, on cells that line the interior of blood vessels, and when exposed to the chemicals, the cells became less viable. There was an increase of molecules associated with DNA damage. Scientists say this damage occurred even when there was no nicotine. And which flavors are the most harmful, you ask? Researchers say cinnamon and menthol. Memorial Day, of course, the unofficial start of summer, and while it was nice out there over the weekend, kids are out on bicycles, lots of them. They continue to do that.
Yeah, it's a good time of year for it, but a recent poll shows many of them will not be wearing helmets, something to keep in mind. Researchers polled more than 1,300 parents who have at least one child between the age of 4 and 13. Nearly 20% say their child does not wear a helmet while riding their bike. Almost 60% also say their child skips the helmet while riding a skateboard. But when it comes to age, the younger children were more likely to wear a helmet. A recent study from Nationwide Children's Hospital shows nearly 600 children go to the ER every day for bicycle-related injuries. God,
that's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break here. Oh, no, we got one more thing.
That's okay. Yeah, the group Save the Children says hundreds of millions of children are better off today than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, the group's newest report ranks the best and worst countries for children based on factors like health and child labor and teen pregnancy. And it shows that since 2000, circumstances for kids have improved in, listen to this, 173 of 176 countries. In fact, there's been progress in all areas but one, and that area is children suffering due to conflict. The U.S. was ranked 36th, thanks to a decline in teen births, school dropout rates, chronic malnutrition, and child marriage. Singapore tops the list as the country that does the most to protect its children. The Central African Republic does the least. And now a break coming up. A high school senior who accomplished a lot in 4 years is shut out of attending his graduation. We'll find out why the school system is laying down the law on this.
And Keith is back with a full look and another look at maybe that new set.
That was weird. Somehow I skipped that story.
That's all right. I had an awkward pause, so that was probably my fault.
No, that wasn't your fault.
I'm
not worried about it. I was surprised that I skipped it because I actually went in and I was aware of that story. All right. You got Sam coming in, y'all?
So yeah, we had, speaking of Sam was combing through messages and emails, and she found like a lot of good questions that you guys are sending in. So we're always looking for story ideas. So if you guys have things that you want us to talk about, you guys want us to cover, this is the place to let us know. And we'd love to look into it for you. Yes, and you can also email us if you don't want to post it on this live feed at asknow@newscentermaine.com.
What do you think, Sam?
Made it.
Was there a question about that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You wait till you see my full screen that I just made. I don't even have a picture of the guy, so I used a picture of the school.
Oh, that's
I know
okay.
there wasn't any on the website.
Well, you had a far drive today. You went all the way to Bridgeton?
Yeah, and then I stopped in physically at the superintendent's office on my way back, and I waited like 30 minutes there, and then no one talked to me.
Oh, no. Dee-dee-dee. I know you weren't here on Friday, but the last installment of Portland Reborn was really cool.
Oh, great.
I liked where you like transported from scene
yeah,
to scene
all
to scene.
the 5 standers in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it, when you think about 2 hotels versus all the hotels that I named.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So we pretty much have college graduations behind us, so the graduation season for high schoolers is coming up now. Hundreds of students all around the state are going to cross that stage to receive their high school diplomas.
But for one senior in Maine, this achievement is being put on the back burner. Sam York is here to explain why. Hey, Sam.
Hey guys, yeah, so Timothy Moore is a senior within the Lake Region School District. And his parents say he has gone above and beyond academically his entire school career. So, as you can imagine, they were stunned to find out he wouldn't march with his class at graduation. They say it comes down to technicalities, but the district says it's a bit more complicated than that. Like many high school seniors, Timothy Moore has his plate full.
Finish up this last paragraph.
There's just one difference.
So how are you doing?
Where he does his schooling.
When we first moved up here, my husband traveled for work and stuff, so we just had his stuff on his laptop.
Being homeschooled has never stopped Tim from participating in programs and activities with the Lake Region School District.
He's been with them forever. He holds school records for track. He's been taking classes all along.
But that all changed last week when he was told he would not be able to march with the rest of his graduating class.
Just kind of a big shock to me. I didn't get told until 2 weeks before I'm graduating, and I've been planning on, I already got fitted for my cap and gown.
The reason? Not enough credit hours with the school.
He was fine enough to play sports with them and to hold school records with them, and that's fine. But then to say that at the very end, 2 or 3 weeks before the actual graduation, he cannot participate. Breaks my heart.
According to the district's website, students who are homeschooled within the Lake Region School District can participate in graduation ceremonies. However, there are certain requirements that must be met, including being enrolled in at least 6 credit hours per semester.
We have a policy, a lot of rules that we have to follow, and if we made an exception for one student, then we're going to make exceptions for other students. Ethically and morally, I think we have to follow the rules that we have in place.
As graduation gets closer, Tim and his family are not willing to give up without a fight, saying his achievements in the classroom and his community should outweigh a school policy.
I just want him to be acknowledged with his peers because he's tried so hard.
Now, Lake Region's superintendent says situations like this always make them pause and reevaluate school policies, but they feel their rules line up well with other districts around the state. Tim and his family say they hope they'll be able to come to some kind of compromise before graduation on June 16th.
And Sam, speaking of policies, when it comes to homeschooling, are there policies out there? This was quite the talker in the newsroom today.
Yeah, and we wanted to find out, what are the requirements if you are homeschooled to be able to march with your class? And actually at 5:30, Lee, Cindy, and I will dive right into that.
Good deal.
All right,
All right.
deep dive.
Thanks,
coming up.
guys.
All right, Sam, thank you very much. All right, let's do a deep dive back into the weather now. Here's Keith.
You have no choice. Get at least
Hey,
3
Keith.
minutes of give or take.
I love it.
All right, today was kind of a rough day in most spots, and I always think it's interesting when the temperature map like this shows you what's happening on the ground, right? You can see very clearly who's in the rain and who is seeing the sun, and unfortunately central and southern Maine and New Hampshire are the have-nots, and a lot of other spots across the Northeast seeing nice weather. So there's the sun, there's the rain, some heavy slugs moving through. It is interesting though that a lot of this apparent heavy rain is actually not that heavy at the surface, and what's happening is snow not that far aloft is melting, and as that happens it basically confuses the radar into thinking it's raining really heavily, called bright banding, and you try not to see it this late in the season. It's more typical to see it in April, early May, but here we are. Meanwhile, to the north, as I mentioned, relatively clear and a totally different and much nicer day there. So it rains through the good portion of tonight. It's not until after midnight that we start to go over to showers. Even those hang around through tomorrow morning. And tomorrow, as I mentioned, is a dry day, but it's not a good looking day. The temperatures struggle to get to 50 degrees. Maybe we get to 52, 53 for an hour or so. Most of it though cloudy and cool. And then Thursday, probably a couple of showers hang around, these little lobes of energy coming through, and that one will give us showers more so in the afternoon. Temperatures again struggle to only around 50 or so. Overnight there's some rain, and then we clear out in time for Friday. And no question, Friday is the best day of the work week. Unfortunately, the bar for that is set really low by these other days, but Friday should be legitimately a pretty nice day. Overall, we're back in that pattern we were in a couple of weeks ago. Little lobes of energy coming down and clipping us, not really impacting northern Maine that much. So Thursday, there's a couple of showers around Thursday night into Friday, some rain. It moves out though. Friday, Saturday, both look good. At this point, I can't give you the whole weekend though. Looks like we'll be back to some showers and some clouds on Sunday and Monday. So, back from whence we came, guys. You know, it's interesting. After such a great weekend, it felt like summer was opening up. And then to see that there's snow on the top of Mount Washington right now, it's snowing, and it's really cold and rainy. Feels like a setback. You'll feel better on Friday and Saturday. I will say this, as a ratio of weekend days, we've been doing pretty well, considering the abysmal pattern we have on the whole been in. We've been carving out these time periods at the right time. So it looks like that'll continue at least half this weekend. So
okay, all right.
We'll take it.
That's my spin.
We're not going to jump up and down about it,
no,
but we're going to go
You're going to
good.
accept it.
Okay, good.
Right.
We will accept it.
Keep things. Count the late conductor Arthur Fiedler among the Boston Bruins fans as they skate into the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, the nonprofit Esplanade Association has installed a giant Bruins helmet atop the statue of the beloved conductor Arthur Fiedler, the Boston Pops Orchestra, of course, just in time for Game 1 against the Blues, which of course was last night. Organizers said the helmet is 17 feet in circumference. Now Fiedler, a Boston icon who died in 1979, has worn other oversized headgear in the past too, including a Giants Red Sox cap. The maestro's son Peter says he's sure his father would approve if it helps the Bruins win the Stanley Cup.
That's pretty cool. Good photo op. And check out the night sky in the capital city of one Chinese province every night since Friday. They've been doing this, lighting up the sky with more than 500 drones. The performance is part of the China International Big Data Industry Expo. The drones are equipped with colorful lights, and they filled the sky and aligned into different patterns, animations, and even 3D designs. The drone performances will last until the end of the month, 2 days longer than the expo. This reminds me of the performance we saw at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Very cool.
And check this out too. The one that got away, or the one that we couldn't quite get to. This is video we found on Snap Maps today. A cat trying to get a hold of a bird on the other side of the window. This video was taken in Gardner.
Oh, try again, kitty. Try and try again.
All right, Cindy's here. Tell us what's coming up at 5:30. We already know what Sam's going to be talking about. Are you?
That's right. We're going to have more on that, but we're also going to talk about workers' compensation, and this is obviously a big question. They discuss it a lot in Augusta. They're at it again. How much compensation should workers get when they get injured on the job? We're going to have the latest proposals for you coming up at 5:30. Also ahead, learning how to tie flies and cast them out aren't typically things you learn in college, but thanks to donations of the use of the Sky Lodge up in Jackman, That's just what some college students are learning, and they're even earning credit for it. Yep, a river runs through it. Those stories and more ahead in the next half hour.
That looks good.
Sounds good.
Be fun.
One of those sunny days we have coming up. The one and only sunny days we have coming up. We'll be back with Raindrops after this. FIEDLER, right?
FIEDLER.
FIEDLER. Oh, I was like, oh.
Arthur Fiedler.
FIEDLER.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Have a good Raindrops.
Adios, adios. Rich is joining the conversation about the sick pay bill, thinking small businesses will suffer. So, any anniversary plans tonight?
No, it was yesterday. And
oh, it was yesterday.
We were at the lake, so it was good. Yeah.
That's nice. Nice and cozy.
Since we're renovating a house, we were like, let's not spend a lot of money on gifts this year.
Yeah.
Get tough. So, yeah, but it was good. Got to the lake, got the boat in.
That's nice. Clay and I started doing like, instead of gifts, we just call like big purchases throughout the year gifts for whatever's like coming up.
Do it together, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
it eventually gets weird
Yeah.
to give each other gifts unless they're really super thoughtful, because it's like joint money.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I got you this like $500 piece of jewelry. Well, like, it's kind of everybody's money. So I don't know. Something about it seems weird over time. Not that I don't give gifts, but but you're kind of like, okay.
But if it's something I needed and that's practical that I know I wouldn't buy for myself, like that's really cool.
Right. Yeah. They have to be like unexpected.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right.
Nothing today.
Nothing good. We can always punt to 7-day too. Yeah. That's the nice thing about being first. They can figure it out. Work it out amongst themselves.
I love it.
We used to have automated breaks at the weather.
Oh, so you had to hit the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be first.
Tough.
Yeah, so it was non-negotiable. You had a clock.
Yeah.
And when it got to 0, you were going to commercial. It did not matter what you were in the middle of.
And you just had to wrap quick, or you had to stretch? Oh, man. That's brutal.
I mean, it was kind of nice in a way because you always knew exactly where you were. Like, you would never be surprised by somebody be like, wrap, like you see it. But some people got clipped a lot in the middle of sentences.
Oh, I bet.
All right, today's Brain Drops is, we've had a pretty big severe weather outbreak over the past few weeks. Conditions have been primed for that. And there's a good but interesting tweet. He's a friend of mine. His name is Greg Diamond. If you're into weather, follow this dude. It's at GDimeWeather, which is a great handle.
Where's he based?
He's at the Weather Channel in Atlanta.
Gotcha.
And he's just a great stats guy. So there have been 7 tornado deaths this year, and all 7 of them have been at night. Which is something that is kind of an unknown or something people don't realize here in New England, where we don't deal with too many tornadoes. And then there was further research done on this topic. If we can go to the next link, they did a statistical analysis of nocturnal tornadoes, so obviously tornadoes in the evening. And they found that even though they were only 20-something% of the total tornadoes, they accounted for about 40% of tornado fatalities. The reason for this seems obvious, which is, you don't wake up in time, you didn't get warned. That's part of it. But now cell phones will alert you based on your position, and they will go past your do not disturb. So that has been a big improvement. One of the biggest reasons is people during the day are typically in better structures, stronger structures. So if you're working, right now, we are working in a brick building.
Yes.
You're going to go home and sleep most likely in a stick frame building.
Right.
So it's actually that you're in more vulnerable circumstances at night than you might be working during the day.
That makes absolute sense. When Clay and I were in the Midwest, we had a tornado plan, although it was just to hide in the bathroom, and that was all we could do because we didn't have a basement.
Yep.
It would have been preferred if we had been at work in the work building, but rain wrapped. The other thing with nighttime, I think maybe you can't see them coming, and that's another issue with rain wrapped tornadoes.
True, but if you're waiting to see it coming, you might be too late. Anyways, but no, to your point, I mean, the other thing, by the way, the bathroom is the right plan if you don't have a basement because it's interior. And our tornado expert used to say, get in the bathtub with the helmet. It sounds stupid. If you have a helmet,
well, protect your head.
Yeah, and
you
a mattress. If you could drag a mattress over, that's the thing. But I thought that was interesting, and that's one of the most scary things there is severe weather in the middle of the night.
Oh, it's not fun.
Glad to be in Maine doesn't happen very often.
My mom's really happy we're not in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's scary. It is scary.
All right, guys. News at Maine at 5:30 starts right now. Fun fact: the summer that Clay had double hip surgery, we had like the geriatric shower bench, and we did hide under that bench in the tub one time.
It's head injury. You put that thing down.
Yeah. Bye, guys. See ya.
We used to